Hey, good afternoon. This is Mike Monroe with your Murrieta Wildemar Chamber of Commerce, crashing this week's Learn It Live. I hope you guys are all very excited. I have two very tremendous guests that I'm very excited to have. I know they are a wealth of knowledge and just genuinely great people. So I'm really excited to hear from them. So I'm going to go over real quick. I'm going to introduce them one by one, and then I have really great bios, starting with Andrea Shoup. So Andrea Shoup, president of Shoup Legal, is an experienced attorney who has been certified by the state of California State Bar and is a specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law. Andrea and her team help ensure that families have a plan in place to provide for their loved ones in the event of the unexpected. Ms. Shoup truly enjoys getting to know clients and their wishes in order to tailor a plan to best serve each unique estate planning need. Ms. Shoup is also honored to offer her clients peace of mind by providing them with the tools they need to protect their legacy. So, Andrea, we are very honored to have you today.
Thank you.
And joining her will be David Shoup. David Shoup, Vice President of Shoup Legal, spent 8 years serving our country in the United States Marine Corps as an infantryman. Thank you for your service. Mr. Shoup left active duty in 2012 to continue his education. After graduating with honors from the University of California, Riverside with a bachelor's degree in psychology, David earned his Juris Doctor, graduating magna cum laude from California Western School of Law in San Diego. Mr. Shoup specializes in business formation, entity creation, business succession, buy-sell agreements, and corporate and contract law. So we've got an absolute wealth of knowledge here for you this afternoon. I am completely excited to have you. So Andrea, if you could, take us away.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody today. Thank you. So what we're going to be talking about is kind of estate planning versus business succession planning, and really talking about how they go together, what they mean, and so forth. So what you are going to discover today is we're going to shed light on some misconceptions regarding estate planning and business succession planning. We're going to talk about why you really need both, mind the gaps in one versus the other when you don't have your two plans talking together, and also talk about the consequences of not being properly prepared. It is so important. We often see that maybe somebody has an estate plan with a will or a trust and so forth, but they have a business and the business hasn't been provided for in the trust, and the two plans really aren't talking together. And that's when you have gaps, and it just is not a good thing when that occurs. Likewise, sometimes we have a great succession plan and we haven't done estate planning, and then everything ends up in court and things did not go as planned. So it's so important when we are business owners, we have to protect for ourselves, we have to protect our families, our businesses, because many times our family relies on our business. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So this is for you if you're not sure why you need an estate plan, you're not sure what the heck a business succession plan is. This is for you if you are sick and tired of getting bad information, and also if you are worried that you, your family, and your business is not protected, okay? I just want you to think for a moment. Imagine if you could wave a magic wand and you would have peace of mind knowing you, your family, and your business, it's all protected. You would be able to know that it was done right, it was proper, it was set up the right way, and that you have finally been able to cross this off your to-do list. That is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'll tell you a little bit about how David and I got to be doing exactly what we're doing today. I spent nearly 6 years in the San Diego District Attorney's Office. I was a felony trial prosecutor, and I was having a great time. And then we were expecting our first son, Matthew. And at the time, David was active duty Marine. And all of a sudden, all the what ifs in life started playing in my mind. What if he didn't come home from that deployment? What if something happened to me? What do we do with this tiny little baby that we've been entrusted to? What do we got to do to plan for our Matthew? And so as I started looking and seeing what we need to do to protect our family and plan for our family, I discovered all the ways that it goes really wrong and really bad for families when they haven't planned. And one thing I was absolutely terrified of is I did not want my son to be placed in foster care if something had happened to my husband and myself, even for 2 weeks, to get a court order so my parents or somebody could take care of my child. So I wanted to make sure that I had planned for our family. And now um, we have our beautiful son Matthew, but now we have four beautiful children, and I'm more passionate than ever at making sure that families understand what's important to protect their family, protect their business and themselves in case that the unexpected occurs. Because we all know, as business owners, as parents, as just individuals, we know that a lot is riding on our success and our ability to plan and make sure we're prepared for the future. So I know how important it is. And next, I'm going to let David explain how he got into business law. David.
Well, thank you so much, Andrea. How I got into business really stems from my experiences in the United States Marines. If there's one thing I learned in the Marine Corps, is that everything has to be done a very specific way. While, helping business owners, it doesn't have maybe the same consequences as, deploying to Iraq, things like that. But the same concepts do apply. It must be done a certain way. And so I take that same energy into the business owners that I help. And really, that has really developed my passion for working with business owners throughout the state of California and making sure things are done exactly the right way.
Well, and it's so important. We're passionate about helping families, helping businesses make sure they're protected. I want to tell you about John. Okay. I want to explain to you why we're so passionate about helping families, helping business owners. So John came to us because he liked to ride things that go fast. Okay. He enjoyed it. That is part of one of his passions, but he has this beautiful young family that he knew he needed to protect. And he has this great successful business that he also knew he needed to protect. And he knew he needed to make sure that there was a plan in place for his business so that could continue on, but also for his family so that they would be protected in the event that something did occur. And this is what John had to say about working with our team. So and we're grateful and we're just so honored with the ability to work with people like John and help him and help his business thrive and make sure that they have a plan and it's all set up well. But really, this isn't about me. It's not about David. It's not even about the families and businesses that we're honored to serve. This is about you. And my goal for you today is that you understand what you need to do to protect you, your family, and your business. That is our goal today. Does that sound good, everyone? All right. So what you're going to discover today, again, we're going to shed light on those misconceptions out there so that you know what is real and what's not real, why you need both an estate plan and a business succession plan if you are a business owner. Also, mind the gaps between the two. You have to make sure that the two plans are working and talking together. And we're going to talk about the consequences of not being properly prepared. All right. So let's get into it. I'm often asked, what is estate planning? What's important? What does this all mean? All right. So estate planning is making sure that someone has legal access and legal instructions to step in if you're not able to. What does that mean when we're not able to? Well, sometimes that occurs because we've passed away. Other times it occurs because we've become incapacitated, meaning we're not able to manage our financial affairs or manage our, personal affairs. So when that occurs, we need someone to step in for us. We want to make sure that they have legal access to step in and legal instructions. Legal access means when they knock on the door to the bank and say, hey, I need to access Andrea's bank account to make sure Andrea's mortgage gets paid, to make sure Andrea's kids have food on the table, we want to make sure that they have legal access. But we also want to make sure that they have legal instructions. We want to know what they're going to do when they go and knock on the door and have the bank opened up to them. Not just what they're going to do, but also what they can't do. We want to have legally enforceable instructions so they can't open up my bank account and do something for their own benefit. That is not allowed. That's not okay. And the way we do that is with several different types of tools, different types of documents. There are each document, and we hear of a trust, a will, power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive. They're all different types of tools that are aimed at the same two concerns: legal access, legal instructions. So, well, what happens if we don't plan? Let's just say we haven't done this for ourselves. We know we need to get our affairs in order, right? But let's say we haven't done that. What happens then? Well, when we have no plan, we actually have the government plan. And the fine folks up in Sacramento have helped us out with the government plan. And they've actually provided a plan for us. And it's contained in the probate code, and it's quite thick. And it has all kinds of things that occur if we haven't planned for ourselves that will happen in the event we become incapacitated or pass away. So even though we think we haven't planned for ourselves, that doesn't mean we don't have a plan. We just have the government plan. Okay, then, well, what is the government plan? Well, when we've passed away, the government plan is probate. We've all kind of heard of probate, right? We know we're not exactly sure what it is, but we know we don't want it, right? So, what is probate? Probate is a court process. It is a procedure for transferring assets from one person to another after that person passed away. All right. It's a very lengthy process. I would say on average, most probates take about 24 months, give or take. Here in Riverside, actually, we're very blessed. Our courts are actually really good and they operate very efficiently. Other counties surrounding us, not so much. But it's still a very lengthy process. And with the shutdowns we experienced earlier this year, it took even longer to get some of these hearings and procedures closed. It's also a very public process. So everything that happens in court, it's all public record, right? It's all open to the public. So things that we think of as kind of private, imagine all of our assets when we pass away, where we bank, our bank account numbers, our bank account balances. That's all filed in open court and it's open to the public. So it's a very public process. It's also a very costly process. Probate is expensive. So many times probate fees are based on the statutory probate fees. It's based on the gross estate value. What do I mean by gross estate value? I mean the value of, say, a home, regardless of any mortgage. We don't look at the value of the mortgage. So think of maybe a $500,000 home, or regardless of any mortgage, think of just a modest home, modest personal property, modest retirement accounts and bank accounts. To get to a $500,000 estate, it happens pretty quickly. Probate fees exceed $26,000 just for the sheer honor and privilege of going through that probate process. This is 100% completely avoidable. Probate really is an option. We can opt out of it by planning for ourselves. So I've talked about what happens after we pass away. Well, what happens if we become incapacitated? That means we can't manage our financial affairs. We can't act for ourselves. Usually that results in a conservatorship. A conservatorship is when a judge appoints someone else to act for us. Now, many times I'm told, well, Andrea, you know what? I'm married. My husband's on the deed to my house. My husband will just take over for me. Okay, but that doesn't always happen that way. Even husbands and wives, they need planning amongst themselves. I had a very sad situation happen a few years ago. Husband and wife, they were going to come in to see me to do their estate plan, but then they wanted to postpone it until after their trip. They went to go visit family in Arizona. And when they came back, the wife called me up and she was pretty frantic. And she said, Andrea, I need a power of attorney and I need it right away. Can you come to the hospital? My husband had a stroke. I told her, I'm so sorry to hear that. Of course, just let me know what you need. And I asked her more questions. And I asked her, he's going to understand what we're doing, right? She's like, Andrea, he doesn't even remember who I am. He doesn't know what we're doing. I said, I am so sorry, but he's if he doesn't understand what we're doing, we can't have him sign a power of attorney. She's like, no, 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 you don't understand. We're in the middle of refinancing our house. I need this power of attorney to complete this refinance. If not, I'm going to have to sell my house. And it broke my heart, but I had to explain the same way he can't sign the power of attorney because he didn't understand, the same way they're not letting him sign the refinance documents, the same way he can't sign the house sale documents either. She spent the last 7 months of his life trying to get a conservatorship over her own husband. This is very unfortunate, and it does happen. That's why it's so important that we don't stick with the government plan. We want to say, just say no to the government plan. We want to plan for ourselves. We want to avoid probate, avoid court. I can tell you, after nearly 6 years in the district attorney's office and another, going on 8 years now in probate court, nothing good happens in court. We want to stay out of court. All right. We want to avoid it. So then, how do we avoid it? What do we do to avoid it? That's where a trust comes in. So you hear, I'm one of the most common questions I'm asked is, what's the difference between a will and a trust? Why do I want one versus the other? Let me explain. Want it. All right. Wills basically contain instructions to a judge who is in court. We want to stay out of court. So then enter a trust. Well, a trust, what it says is, here's my stuff, and here's who I want to get my stuff after I pass, and here's my trustee, kind of like that executor who I want to make sure my stuff get to those people I want it to go to. But a properly drafted, properly funded trust will completely avoid probate. That's the difference. It's actually a difference in how you own your property. Instead of me owning my house as Andrea, just, myself, I own it as Andrea as trustee of Andrea's trust. So it's a different way to own property, but that's the secret sauce. That's what makes a trust, a properly drafted, properly funded trust, avoid that probate process. That's why it's so important that families have that in place. And there's many other aspects to estate planning and what they need to do to protect themselves, protect their family, and protect their business. But that is the process, the probate process we absolutely want to avoid. And this is one way to do it, is doing that by having a proper estate plan, a trust-based estate plan in place. Next, David is going to talk to us about business succession planning. So David, if you will.
All right, terrific, Andrea. Thank you so much for that really thorough breakdown. I can tell you without a doubt, if you own a business, this applies to you with getting that right kind of estate plan together, getting the right, tools in place for your business is absolutely essential. And that really ties into this thing called a succession plan. Now, what is that? It sounds just, so confusing. And really what a succession plan is, it's us protecting, preserving, and building a plan for the future for our business. And I will say this without a doubt, no matter where in the stage of the game you are with your business, where you've just started your company or that you've been in business for 40 years, this applies to you. So it's never too late, or never too early rather, to plan, just like what Andrea was talking with the estate plan. Okay, so that's what we're going to be diving into. So I'm going to talk about 3 steps what we're going to focus on with business succession planning, because their succession planning is very, very complicated. So we're going to focus on the basics today and things that you really should consider doing in preserving, protecting, and planning for your business. Okay, so here we go. Next slide, please. Okay, so the very first step, and this is the first thing that I almost always do with every single business owner that I meet with, is talking about how your business is structured. Okay, just like in the probate world, if we don't have a plan, California supplies it for you. It's like that with our businesses too. If we haven't structured our business, then by default, we are what's called a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship basically is a business that doesn't exist outside of the owner themselves, okay? You're not registered with the Secretary of State. You have no formal business, and you're just a sole proprietorship, which can be useful in certain circumstances, right, when we get starting, but frequently we outgrow this really, really quickly, okay? So then the question is, well, there's so many different kinds of business entities out there, different ways that we can structure our business. You know, what should I do and how should I do it and all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm not going to go today into, what kind of business entity, the strengths and weaknesses of the business entities themselves. We're really going to focus on, some of the basics about when you should structure your business on a couple of different criteria, because this makes a significant difference for you as a business owner in terms of what kind of liability are you exposed to, what you can do with your business. Can you give this to your kids? What happens to the business if you're not here to manage the business, if you pass away? And a lot of tax planning too. We can really stand to pay a lot less in taxes based on how our business is set up. Okay, so let's go through those some of those criteria together. Next slide, please. Okay, so the two basic business entities that I deal with the most, all right, is the LLC, what's known as a limited liability company, and a corporation, okay? But deciding when to use one of these tools, just like a trust or will is a tool, these are powerful tools for our business, but we really need to consider when do we put this together and maybe when should we wait, okay? So while every case is very different, it's really specific to your business, and so this is something you need to talk to your own attorney about and really talk with your CPA about. It's really case-by-case basis on the specific business and your situation, but there's common factors for when we structure these together, okay? Number one on the list is all about saving money, right? Who wants to pay more money than they have to? I certainly don't. Most business owners, I don't think I've ever met a business owner, Andrea, you probably haven't either, that says, you know what, I want to pay extra taxes. I just feel like contributing to our government. Probably not, right? So this is the first thing that we look at when we're structuring our business, all right? While, like I said, every case is a little different. That's why you need to meet with your attorney or CPA on this. But general guidelines that I've heard CPAs say is if we're grossing over $75,000 in a given year, or we anticipate having more than $25,000 in net profit, that's a basic guideline for when we want to structure a formal business. And it's based on something called self-employment taxes. If you are over those numbers, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in your gross revenue, and also based on your profit, and you're a sole proprietorship, that is a serious issue. Okay, we want to get out of that as quickly as possible because you're just going to end up basically flushing money down the toilet. Okay, so it all starts there. The second thing is based on our employment hiring strategies. Okay, a basic concept in business law is that we are responsible as the employer for our employees, which means if they go out in town and they hit someone with their car when they're running an errand for us, that's our fault, and that's what we're responsible for that. Okay, and if you're a sole proprietor, all right, you're personally responsible for that, which means that when that lawsuit comes and that personal injury attorney comes knocking on your door, he will be knocking at your home door, not your business door, because guess what? You don't have a formal business to protect you. So whenever we're dealing with employees, that's a really, really good time to structure our business because we want to get some protection. Okay, but succession planning is much more than just protecting ourselves from liability, which I'm going to go more into in just a couple of slides. It's also about building in a plan, what's called the succession plan. What happens if we're not here? Okay, if we don't come into work tomorrow, what's going to happen to our business? All right. If Andrea and I don't come to work tomorrow, what's going to happen? Will our business thrive? Will it continue? Because I know for sure that my kids need the income from this business for their food, for their living, all the rest of that. So this can be much more easily structured with an LLC or corporation because guess what? As a sole proprietor, your business doesn't exist beyond you. It literally will not exist if you pass away. It dies with you. As opposed to a corporation and LLC, these businesses live forever, okay? And so we can set it up for kind of backups to ourselves, kind of like an emergency plan that I'll talk about in just a minute that really can be much more easily done with the corporation, the LLC, tied into that estate plan, like we're talking about, to preserve and protect your business. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's really the first step when we're really talking about succession planning, is getting your business in the right structure. All right, so which business entity, like I said, that's case by case basis. But now we're going to talk about the gap that I see, and I know Andrea sees all too often in the corporate and the estate planning side. Because we got our estate plan over here, and yeah, we got a business attorney, he's got some contracts for us and stuff like that over here, but the two are not connecting. And that's a big issue. Andrea, can you tell us a little bit more about the construction company that you were involved in that really, unfortunately, their two sides were not connecting the way we should?
Right. Well, it's very sad. There was a very profitable, very successful construction company, and the business owner passed away. And the business had been valued at $4 million. So it was a very profitable, very valuable company.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, within about 4 months after the business owner passed away, the company basically disintegrated, completely dissolved, because the probate court cannot operate and react quick enough. Question: if your employees were no longer getting a paycheck, how long would they still be working for your company? Would they wait 4 months and still work just as hard and diligently? Of course not. We wouldn't expect them to, because they have families to feed, and people who depend on them. They rely on that income. And the probate court, unfortunately, it just can't react quickly enough to make sure that the payroll gets paid, vendors get paid, contracts get fulfilled. So unfortunately, with
Right.
this probate that we had, this construction company within 4 months essentially basically disintegrated and was not able to carry on, because the business owner did not have an estate plan. It did not carry through. It was set up as a corporation, but that corporation went through probate. The
Right.
probate court just couldn't act quickly enough, and that $4 million company did not pass on to his two sons. It essentially disintegrated within 4 months. It's a very awful, very sad process on top of the loss of the father.
Yeah, no kidding. And this gentleman built his business over decades, and within 4 months, all went up in smoke because he did not have the right kind of business planning. I'm here to tell you right now that if your business is not included in your estate plan and you don't have the right kind, like a business trust is kind of what we refer to it as, if you don't have that kind of plan in place, you have an improper estate plan as a business owner. Okay, so we need to make sure that we cover the gap here to make sure you have the right kind of tools in place. Just like you wouldn't use a hammer to screw in a screw. Okay, you need the right kind of tool. You need the right kind of stuff in place. Special planning is absolutely necessary to avoid this gap, which happens all too often. Andrea, you and I were involved in another case where, we had a trust, but it wasn't the right kind of trust. And even with one owner passing away, there's a husband and wife both involved. Both 50-50 owners, one of them passed away, business had to get shut down. And it was just so tragic that the surviving spouse needed that income, just didn't have it because they had a trust, wrong kind of trust, right? So this really dives into this concept of emergency planning, okay? And I'm talking beyond just setting up the corporation. I'm talking about if you as the owner are not able to come into work tomorrow, does your team have the instructions they need to carry on the business? Do you have a manager appointed? Are we able to really take care of this? Where are your bank accounts? What about payroll? What about the contracts? Everything else in place? Are there guidance to your successors? Because even if you have the business trust in place, really good succession planning goes beyond that. Okay, it goes on giving, like Andrea said, those legal instructions to your successors so they can actually maintain this business, because a business can implode even with all this planning if there isn't a really good emergency plan in place. And that's even more critical when you have a specialized business, some kind of professionally licensed business where your spouse doesn't have that license. Big problem. A power of attorney is not enough. We've got to build in this kind of planning into the business document. So next slide, please. So I want to tell you, I'm going to drive this home. Okay, one more story about I'm going to call ABC Corporation. They had a really good business plan in place. Okay, they had these ownership contracts in place. what were to happen if one of us were to pass away? They did all this because there's multiple owners involved. This business had gone through this before, tried to change and implement new procedures, and got these really good business contracts in place called a buy-sell agreement, which is essential if you have more than one owner, especially if you're not married. Okay, but unfortunately, they had all their owners had these estate plans, but there was one of them that didn't. You guessed it. That guy, unfortunately, was involved in a serious auto accident, passed away, and the business went into probate. Okay, because they all were not protected. It's really, you got to think about this as all or nothing. You need both sides. All of your owners need to be protected. And then the business has been in probate now for, going on 14, 18 months, Andrea, give or take?
I think so, yeah. It's been well over a year.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the business value has just gone right down the tubes because they have a lot of government contracts. It's really, really critical we protect that business and this stuff. So again, I know we've been hammering this now, but we really need to get this point across. We need both. One is just not enough. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the third thing involved in business succession planning is really just protecting the business in general, all right? This is the number one goal for a business attorney, is getting a little liability to the business owner as possible, okay? Because let's face it, we can't build a business that's just being destroyed by a lawsuit, whether it's an employee claim, workers' compensation, a claim from a creditor, maybe a customer that's making a complaint, or some other third party, landlord, something else, whatever. There's a lot of different ways that we can get into trouble with businesses, and we can't pass on a business or really get a lot of value out of our business if it's being attacked and if it's just really vulnerable to litigation, okay? So we've got to protect our businesses from these kinds of realities, because it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. All right, so we got to be ready for it. Okay, building protection against liability after you get sued is like trying to get car insurance after you get in a car accident. Makes no sense. Okay, you've got to have this stuff in place ahead of time, just like what Andrea was talking. Next slide, please. So what we want to do is we want to build as many barriers between our personal property and that potential lawsuit, that coming lawsuit at some point, as many barriers as possible to just get as many defenses in place, kind of like building a castle. We don't just rely on one piece of it. We're going to have a moat and a wall and defenders and all this other stuff involved protecting our business, okay? So go ahead and advance. So we got the lawsuit on the left, okay, advance it again, and then we have all of our personal property on the right, okay? This is your home, this is your car, this is your retirement, your bank accounts, everything that you built up for so long is on the right side. And that, let's say it's employee claim. Let's say they got sick, COVID-19, and they're going to blame you for it, okay? That is liability to us, and we need to protect it. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, go ahead, click one. So the first barrier that I want to put in place is really just making sure that the business owner is managing their business correctly, okay? This could be HR. This could be building a good business plan. This could be making sure that you're not commingling personal and business property. This could be not taking on too many cases or too many contracts, because when you overcommit, you cannot actually perform the contracts as you're required to, and now you're exposed because now you're going to breach your contract. Taking on too big of a lease, not good business management. We got to make sure that we're operating our business safely and trying to reduce our risk as much as possible. Okay, next. The next barrier that we want to put in is good business contracts. Okay, so let's say we did good business management, but someone still got hurt. There's some kind of incident. Okay, good business contracts can insulate us from the lawsuit even becoming a lawsuit in the first place, because it says maybe we're not responsible for whatever it is, something like that. If we have an IT provider and they're putting in a hard drive into a business, and let's say the customer, the client wants to install the hard drive themselves. Well, that service contract will say, yeah, okay, you go ahead and install it, but I'm not responsible for what happens if you install it yourself. And then they install it incorrectly and the entire system crashes and their business is down for 5 days. Okay, the contract, the service contract would say, I'm not responsible for that because you did that on your own. If they didn't have a contract, I can nearly guarantee that would be a lawsuit against that IT provider, and they could be subject to a lot of damages for 5 days worth of lost revenue. Okay, with big business, that'd be a big lawsuit. The third thing that we want to do and make sure that we have in place is really good insurance. And you'll notice I say quality insurance. Okay, just like everything else, there's a big difference between some quickie thing and some really good stuff. All right, so you want a good insurance company, high limits, with broad policy that covers as much things as possible. You really want to make sure that if a claim does come in, like that IT, or, in my line of business is errors and emission insurance, right? Just any old policy is not going to work. You need a good company with a good policy to protect your business. Okay, very, very critical. Okay, next. The final thing that we want to do, like we've already talked about, is that legal entity. Okay, now, not any old legal entity is going to work. Okay, just because you get some, let's say we get it off of LegalZoom, that's not the same. Okay, we got to make sure that our business is properly formed, properly structured, and properly maintained. Okay, huge problem. I every week I'm dealing with this about businesses that are not maintaining their businesses. Okay, like I'll give you an example. If you don't have your minutes drawn up every year and you own a corporation, your business will not protect you. That arrow going right through, okay? Because your business is not going to be deemed in compliance. You must have a properly formed, properly structured, properly maintained business, or your business is just a shell. Happens all the time. I'm fixing this stuff every week. So make sure that your business is being done correctly and that it's being maintained properly. Okay, so this is how we build barriers in between yourself and your business, and that's why this is the third step of succession planning, making sure that we're protected. Okay, huge priority for me, making sure that business is protected. Next slide. So, like I kind of alluded to, this is really not something you want to do by yourself, okay? If you do this by yourself and you're trying to just kind of make this work, it can actually make things a lot worse. Andrea, is this on this? What about estate planning? Are there risks to doing this on your own?
I see it happen all the time. DIY planning. There are so many things out there. We've got LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, Google that gives this aura of protection, and it's really so awful what ends up happening to families when people do try to either do it yourself or use, kind of like these shortcut methods to try and get it done. Like I said, an aura of protection that really just doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
You can buy like a trust from Costco right now.
Serious?
It makes me shudder to think of what that might even look like. What I can't even imagine, but
I'll touch it. I wouldn't want to touch it.
yeah. It's so awful. I had a situation where I was helping a family, and this lady had, done her will online. And I don't remember which website she visited to get it from, but she had properly planned for all of her potted plants, who would take care of them if she wasn't able to, who would water them, and who would receive them upon her passing. And then she left her other property, 3 pieces of real property, to her. She had 3 sons. She left it to oldest son to take care of his 2 younger brothers. Now, mind you, these men were in their 50s and 60s. They weren't young children. And as I said, it was a will, so we were in probate court. And the judge stopped reading after "to my oldest son," because the judge said, I don't know what take care of his 2 younger brothers means. So everything went to the oldest son. And you would think, well, of course, he's going to share with his brothers. His mom said, take care of your 2 younger brothers, right? Of course not. They never do. He went on some family vacation, and the 2 younger brothers got to see all their family photos on Facebook that year. But that is what these online documents let you do. They let you get yourself into so much trouble. I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, however you see it, she'll never know what happened as a result of downloading this document online, right? Her family will. Those 2 younger brothers have never talked to older brother again. Family is completely torn apart. And those are relationships that will never be repaired, unfortunately. This is not the area for DIY planning. Don't do it for estate plannings. Don't do it for corporations. My goodness, I couldn't tell you how many, corporations we've had to fix and get up to date. Just the liability that's out there for business owners. I don't think people really understand the exposure that they're exposed to. We have a friend of ours is a personal injury attorney, and we've talked to him about this. He's like, oh yeah, if there was a car accident and there was a business there, the first thing he does is ask for the corporate record book.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't maintained, it's basically a free-for-all to the owner's personal assets, just like what you were saying. The attorney's going to come knocking at their personal door, not their business door. This also, I think, one very telling um, example of DIY planning gone wrong is Chief Justice Warren Burger. So he was the Chief Justice of our U.S. Supreme Court. No doubt, a brilliant legal mind. Like, this guy did know the law. He was the Chief Justice of our U.S. Supreme Court. But I will say he was not an estate planning attorney. All right. So he ended up drafting his own will. And I think it was like 84 words long. And he left everything to his son and daughter. And he did that just fine, except, as I said, it was a will. So, of course, it went to probate court. And his son and daughter actually ended up having to pay over $450,000 in completely avoidable estate taxes and probate fees. Okay.
Wow.
So, despite the fact that he was a smart man and a smart legal mind of a man, he got it wrong because he didn't understand the nuances of estate planning. And I'm sure that the same would apply, to corporate law, understanding how it has to be set up and making sure that the business plan and the estate plan talk together, because you don't want a gap. You don't want this to be somewhere where, it falls through the middle. We see so many times. I've worked with families, and I'll be looking at their estate plan, and I'll ask them, well, you have this business. I don't see it accounted for in here. It's like, well, the attorney didn't ask us about it. Oh my goodness. Well, let's get that fixed. Let's make sure that we've accounted for your business, that we planned for it, and that you're protected for it. Because if not, then it's not going to pass on to your children or your husband or wife, whatever the case may be. And unfortunately, it means that they'll have to go to probate court. Nobody wants to do that. So everybody really needs to work with experienced, qualified attorneys to help out with that. Everyone needs proper planning, even other lawyers, even judges. So, David, do you see anything different with business owners doing DIY planning and DIY corporations?
My gosh, it gets far, far worse. And I'll tell you where it really gets bad is when people are writing their own contracts. It gets so confusing, and it's not always liability. It's not always just, I'm just going to get sued and I don't get protection. Obviously, if your business is not maintained and not put together properly, forget about it, right? They're coming to your house. But where it gets even worse is when people are trying to enforce or write their own contracts. And it's, like I said, not always lawsuits. You're going to lose a lot of clients because it's going to be confusing. Your vendors are going to get frustrated. Your business partner is going to get confusing. The business can just basically cease to exist because it just doesn't function when things aren't clear. So it's really, really good to have, or really necessary to have, everything planned properly and everything included properly. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, right. So I know what everybody's thinking. Okay, you guys have convinced me. I'm concerned about my family. I'm concerned about my business. Where do I even start? What do I do? How do I even know where to get started? So we offer business evaluation and strategy sessions. So this is an opportunity for you to sit down with a member of our legal team. We have decided to make our legal team available to those who are on our call and our video today. To make them available to you to answer your questions for a business evaluation and strategy session. At the end of our time together, you will have an estate planning strategy for your family. You will have a legal evaluation of your business to see where it might be vulnerable and what we need to do to make it less vulnerable. We will identify potential issues with either the estate plan you currently have, or your current business situation. And we will have a proposal for you to address any concerns that you might have. So this is how it works. It's a 45 meeting, either in our office at Shoup Legal or a Zoom call or a video call. And during that time, what we're going to do is we're going to do a preliminary review of your existing documentation, right? We'll see where you currently are, what's there. We're also going to discuss your concerns and the goals that you want to achieve with your business and for your family. We are going to develop a strategy to better protect both your business and your family. And we're also going to answer whatever questions that you have regarding your unique situation. That's what we're going to accomplish during our 45 minutes together. Now, the total value, if you call our office and you ask for a strategy session, is $450. But again, we have made our legal team available to those who are participating today, and it's not $450. In fact, we're going to just provide it absolutely free. We so appreciate all that the Chamber has been doing for our business community, and really we're honored for the opportunity to talk with everybody, and we want to do our part to also help our business community to make sure that we're all protected. So in appreciating what the Chamber has done for all of us, we also want to contribute and give back and make this available at no cost to those who want to participate. So there's no fee if you book your evaluation strategy session today. That's the thing we need to know today, because I've blocked out the time in our calendars to make ourselves available. So if you want to schedule your session with us, please email us. So our email is right there on the screen. It's info@shouplegal.com, info@shouplegal, SHOUPLEGAL.com, or call our office 951-445-4114. You've got to mention the Chamber video right now. Okay. You have to say it's from the Chamber. That's how you get it provided to you without cost. Okay. So don't forget that. Say it's from the Chamber so that they won't, my assistant won't try and charge you that $450. It's right from the Chamber. What's the catch? You gotta let us know today. Just because I blocked out a time in the next month to make it ourselves available to you, right. I just need to know if you want that opportunity, and take me up on the opportunity. You know, how often do we get to just, you know, sit down with an attorney and ask our questions at no cost? So please take me up on it. But I just need to know today, because if you're not interested, no problem, like no obligation by any means. Right. But just let us know so that we can open up that time to other people. So you got to let us know today. Give us a call, email us today, and to book your session, you just got to email us. Again, it's showing up there, info@shouplegal.com, or call us at 951-445-4114. Yeah. You know, Mike, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask any questions. What questions do we have?
I love it. So currently in the Facebook and YouTube chat, I'm not seeing any direct questions, but to some degree that doesn't surprise me, because I know especially in the legal world, people like to have a little bit of privacy when they bring those things up. So for all of the folks that are tuned in or will be tuned in later today, because this will be recorded, I thoroughly encourage you to reach out. Because like Andrea said, I mean, you don't get an opportunity to sit down with two bright minds like this very often and just talk it out. I know we all have questions. In fact, I see a lot of folks using the LegalZoom. Definitely talk to a lawyer. I mean, you're going to get so much more of a personalized focus on your needs there. So definitely do that. I just wanted to personally say thank you to both of you. It's truly appreciated. I saw Michael Fisher on Facebook shares the same regards. And as I was telling Heather, your passion is palpable, and I think that's truly fantastic. And I definitely wanted to say too, really, at least for myself as I was following along, that slide there with the barriers that she had really tells a story. And frankly, in today's market, and even as we move back into some sort of consistency, that is going to be even more true. So definitely make sure you're protecting yourselves. So with that, I'm going to leave the last couple of minutes here for any of our attendees. If you want to ask a brief question, please feel free to do so in the chat. They'll actually show us if they're typing too.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there's Gil. Gil, it will be recorded. I'm sure you'll have a chance to jump back in there. But frankly, especially when it comes to legal matters, I really encourage you folks to reach out to the Shoups directly, because they will be much more able to answer your questions and properly help you with those situations. if they know your specific situation, because there is almost nothing in law I've noticed that is one size fits all. It's all very specific to your needs. So with that, I want to thank our guests tremendously. You two have been absolutely amazing. I thank you so very much for your time. I'm playing with the cool features here.
Have fun over there.
I love it. So again, thank you too. Is there anything that you'd like to say in closing?
David, go ahead.
Really, I just appreciate all you do for our community, and I really love working with the Chamber. Whenever I get a chance to work with anybody from the Chamber, with yourselves personally or anyone else involved, it really is quite a pleasure. And the difference that you guys are making for not only our business community, but just the entire community in general cannot be understated. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I truly appreciate the impact in the lives that you are helping. So thank you so much for this opportunity as well. Having a message is great, but getting that message out and through someone like yourself, it just cannot be understated. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so very much for all that you do.
Excellent. Well, everybody that's been tuned in, and for all the folks that'll be tuning in later, you remember today, September 15th, 2020 is the day that you've got to redeem that. So make sure you're telling the wonderful Shoups that you heard it first on the Chamber, and have that conversation. I know it'll be worth your time. So again, thank you too. You're fantastic. Until next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.